Fulton Overcoach here. Welcome indeed to another edition of the programme. Well, this week we're coming to you from Rathcroghan Visitor Centre in County Roscommon. And there's a big turnout for the launch of the East to West Camino Way, and it's a 500 kilometre walk along some of Ireland's most ancient paths.
Starting about 13 years ago, I started bringing people over to Ireland to visit archaeological sites, Neolithic sites, sacred sites, do some hill walking. I do a lot of geospatial planning work. And so I was helping out with some projects here for about 7 months. And in 2013, I started bringing people over once or twice a year to go to all these different sites around, mostly in the West here, just because it calls to me, and that's where family's from as well. And then when my daughter passed in 2022, my father invited me to walk the Camino in Spain. And it was just the perfect thing for at that point in my life. Releasing grief, walking it out, showing up in a really, really sacred way to everyday action. And along the way, I met a lot of people from Ireland who were also walking the Camino. And they kept telling me, oh, you should walk these pilgrimages in Ireland. And so I started doing some research, and I saw that at that time, at least, most of them were really short, half day, day and a half. And I was just like, well, I don't, that's not the same thing as like walking for 2 or 3 weeks straight. And then through John O'Dwyer's book on the pilgrimage routes in Ireland here, there was some innuendo to this route that now we've helped to restore over the last 2 years. And so I was just like, well, that's what I'm going to walk. I'm doing that. And
you mapped it out, didn't you?
Yeah, I mapped it out. So using the geospatial software that I utilize by planning, I would just utilize the same thing. And I also was able to take William Wild's old maps from the early 1800s, overlay those into the GIS, and then create the map. And then I created an app to then push that out so any walkers could utilize that. My wife said she wanted to walk it, and a lot of friends kept saying, hey, I want to walk that with you too, family members. I was like, okay, well, we better make this really easy for people to track, because one thing I know is I don't want to be waiting for everybody or have people waiting for me. Like, I like to be able to walk, visit sites, talk to people, stop, and not everybody wants to stop at the same place.
Sure, yeah.
And so that's what was initiated it. And then when I started connecting with some of the accommodations along the way, they're like, oh, you need to talk to Sister Maureen, you need to talk to Mary Prendergast. And then it's been a wildfire ever since of just, okay, here we are putting together this ancient Bronze Age route that also, of course, has its associations with St. Patrick. So it's got, just like many things in Ireland, it's got all the layers of the cake there, I think with where, especially like larger pilgrimage routes like Camino de Santiago or the Camino Portugués Central, like they're becoming extremely popular and almost overutilized. And it's so hot, and as climate change continues and the heat keeps coming up, people are going to be looking for alternates, and having a route that has almost 4,000 years of history behind it is exceptional. It is exceptional.
That's the big selling point.
That's it. That is what draws people. It's like coming, like seeing a church, a Marian shrine, a standing stone, a cairn, a dolmen, like just getting to see all of the layers of Ireland's history and prehistory.
Michael, great to see you here at this celebratory launch. You've been a great supporter of this from the start.
Yeah, well, look I remember getting a phone call one day to see would I meet a group of people from Mayo. Some of them had connections to my own area. And when I met Sister Maureen, she's a fascinating woman, to be quite frank about it. Mary and John as well, but Sister Maureen, she's the drive to her. I hope I have that drive at my age, the willingness to do good and to see something out. And she says, Michael, I'm having difficulty trying to get this sorted and this sorted and this sorted. And as I always say, politicians are mighty for claiming that they're doing this, that and the other. Not into that. All we are is like a baton that might facilitate that the people be it the leader, the likes of Tomas Beats, who has been ferociously helpful here, the likes of Daniel here in the centre, and Denise Canavan and the different people along the way from Downpatrick to Croagh Patrick and the people in Mayo to try and sort of bring a mehel of them together, and all the different parts to this, that when you get them all sort of the links of the chain all coming together, that you can make something new that will bring probably a little bit of income for areas like round here, or other parts through Longford, through Cavan, that mightn't see many tourists. But on top of that, they may go in and eat a bit, they'll sleep a bit, and the other part is that they will spread the word. And there's one thing about Ireland, in fairness, they're hospitable people that, you heard it said earlier on, someone would roll down a window and say, "Where are you going?" And he said, "From Downpatrick to Knock." And they said, "Are you mad?" And that's what people love about the Irish. They say it out straight, and someone will have a laugh about it and keep going. The one thing anything becomes a success with is that if everyone puts their shoulder to the wheel that's involved in it and get it going. And it's also important that the people that come enjoy the culture side of it, the solace side of it, because, when you listen to Jeremy there, unfortunately, as he said, it will never bring back his daughter, but it could give him that solace while he's walking, and all people for different reasons.
I first got to know about this particular project through Sister Maureen and Mary B. I think Sister Maureen was initially contacted by Jeremy, and I came to visit her one day for a cup of tea, and she sat me down and she said, "John, we have a project." And she said, "This guy from America has got my name, so I'd like if you and the support of the others on the committee would help me on this." And I said, "Of course, no problem," because I was very interested obviously in walks, and I know what they can offer to local communities. So I was more than happy to put my name forward to be involved in this committee.
Great. Did you know what you were undertaking, by the way?
Not really, no. Two very, very good women here too.
You don't say no to them.
Push things along, no problem to them. And we got there. We had a struggle, and we've had difficulties. But I think we've been able to get over those obstacles by just going through the different processes and meeting different people and connecting with politicians, etc. And that got us here today where we are. So, it was a difficult task, but it was achievable at the end.
Since Jeremy came on board, I was so enthusiastic, and I favoured what Sister Maureen was, considering doing, and I said maybe we'd set up like that a little committee, a subcommittee of the Doher Valley Network, which I'm chairperson of, and it worked out extremely well, and we work well together. And Jeremy then would liaise with us and have Zoom calls, and once a month, and we know his programme. So when he came here this time last year now, we launched the Ireland West Camino, and that was the path from Rathcroghan to Croagh Patrick, and that was very successful. And our dream was Downpatrick to Croagh Patrick. So Jeremy went back and spent his whole winter evenings, drawing up the maps and putting in every last item, including, which I didn't even consider, chemist shops, for your wounds and whatever en route, blisters and so on. But then he told us as well that he would be coming in September with the group. So he would be coming through Rathcroghan, which would be the midpoint, on the 22nd of September. So we put that down in our diary, and we went to all our, people we could possibly visit, and brought in Roscommon and Longford and Westmeath and Meath and Louth, and even we have Armagh and Down, and we have the support of Dr. Tim Campbell as well in the Downpatrick Centre, which is fantastic altogether. And we had 6 counties represented here today, and we thank Liam Callaghan from the Roscommon, Cathaoirleach of Roscommon, and the last Cathaoirleach of the Cavan, Winston Bennett, as well, for coming today. They've been so successful.
Former Mayo Person of the Year for all the Trojan work you've done for rural Ireland. You're passionate about rural Ireland, and this is another feather in your cap.
I love the work. I love working with people. I suppose I come from a rural area, and I really always had a feel and a desire that maybe someday we could raise that up a little bit. I suppose I saw my own parents working so hard, and not that they ever complained, but I think I felt, well, if there's some training I can get that will help me to make Island 80 or Mayo or whatever county a better place to live in, and that's my job.
And this is a great initiative because so many counties involved as well. And it's all about, I know you spoke to it on a number of occasions, the mehel.
That's right. Well, I think that's very significant in that I suppose I am a firm believer, and this was passed on to me by my boss, the late Terry Gallagher, who really made no mistake about how you work with people and how you must value people for what they have. Everybody, as he said, like a mantra, everybody has something to give in community. And in doing that, he was always pointing out to us that that's our job to recognise that, but more importantly still, to help unlock the potential of these people. When Jeremy asked me, was I prepared, would I help him, as broad as that, without knowing exactly, this was my letter, I thought about it, I prayed about it. And I remember thinking to myself, now I could spend the rest few years of my life, whatever the Lord leaves me, developing other things. But I felt, what's the point in having walks and being involved in setting up walks, as we were over the years, unless we have a proper market? And I thought it would be lunacy, really, if we were to pass an opportunity that I felt was there and that there was something to unlock. So I went back, I talked to Jeremy on the phone first, and then he explained to me about his story. And it did fitted in very well, I suppose, with my concept of spirituality and of the person and the abilities of people. And I suppose I made that commitment, and I knew it was going to be difficult. Now, I didn't, and Mary will tell you that, and John, I didn't put I said yes for myself. And I then informed them that this was an offer.
Got them on board.
But, yes. But I didn't in any way, and I'll continue to do this, I never try to pull people in. Or I just leave it to people's own conscience. And I felt that we were better having a few committed people, and that we both, all three of us, would share the same philosophy in common. And I felt that we could do a lot more to help him if there were a few rather than a big number who would disagree with different views. Views are wonderful, but I think I would believe that if we're talking to the right people, if we believe in people development, and if we believe in the spirituality of our earth and the God-given gifts he has given us, and the beautiful, beautiful landscape.
This is huge, and this is massive potential, and I'm glad to be here to support Maureen, who is a community activist who I've worked with on many projects, who I'm working with on projects at the moment in Island 80. And it was remarkable here today. At the launch there was a huge crowd, and I actually done a count on them. And would you believe that a quarter of the crowd here today for the launch was from my parish, Island 80, and I was delighted they all circled round and supported Maureen. And it's an endorsement of what she has done and the contribution that she has made to community life, and this has massive potential. Over 500 kilometres of a walk right through the heart of Ireland, from the burial place of St. Patrick, right through all the counties, I think about 7 or 8 counties, and culminating where else but on top of Croagh Patrick. It's fabulous. It has wonderful potential. I'm delighted to be associated. What better way of bringing people to Ireland, to the heart of Ireland, to the real Ireland, like walking through the the hills and the valleys, the roads, where people have walked for thousands of years.
So Rathcroghan is effectively a group of 260 odd sites that are located just about 3 kilometres northwest from the village of Tulsk, and they spell the settlement history of Ireland. So you've got evidence from about 5,500 years ago up until the late medieval period, and this is the royal site for Connacht in ancient times. So it has this huge long story of activity and of settlement and probably ceremonial and ritual value. And it would have been a place of gathering, a place of assembly. So what we do here is we have a local non-profit charity, and we have our museum, we have our guided tours, we have our local and academic bookshop, and then our community cafe as well. And it's all geared towards bringing the visitor to explore and enjoy Rathcroghan with us.
And the tours, what does that entail?
So what we would do is we'd begin in the museum and we'd give them an overview of what Rathcroghan represents, because a lot of people would come in at it for the first time. And then we spend 2.5 hours out on the sites, walking through the archaeology, exploring some of the features that we can't even see today through our various different archaeological surveys, and telling them also of the great early Irish literature, our early mythology. So the stories around Queen Maeve and St. Patrick and the Thorn Book Cullen, and all the various different kings, queens, warriors that would have traversed the landscape in times past. So the central monument of the landscape is this Rathcroghan mound, which is actually very close to the N5. You're driving past it in its shadow nearly in a way. And that's the focal point of the entire landscape. In times past, most likely to have been some sort of a temple, some place of veneration, a great drawing implement into the local area from probably all over Connacht. And the evidence we have in our stories and in our archaeology would suggest that people are coming from all over, from the four corners of Connacht, in order to come and visit this place. The reason really is probably bound up in how our ancestors understood the world and their place within it. So the idea of worshipping the land and what it provides, it seems to be centrally important to what Rathcroghan represents. So farming, that's the type of activity that's still out there today, and we're just celebrating that and reflecting back through time.
One aspect of the future of County Roscommon, the small villages along the route of the old N5, where the likes of Strokestown, the likes of Tulsk, Bandagar and French Park will now be bypassed, and it'll give people more time to stop off at the villages, a safer place to have a break and interact with the community. And we're lovely rural villages here in, they're untapped really, and the people are so willing to meet. There's a warmness here. So I think this Camino will fit in perfectly with the modern development of the road, but holding on to the old traditions of that road. And I was highlighting there, St. Patrick has strong connections here with Tulsk, because he allegedly baptised Etna and Fidelma, the King and Queen's daughter, and that's just at Ogla Shrine. It's just 500 metres off this path. So that certainly intertwines with the whole project, because when you're halfway en route, where you can stop back and wash your feet, cleanse up for the morning, and I think everything is falling into place, and Tulsk will be central to that.
From Croagh Patrick to Downpatrick in itself, it has a good ring to it. But the amount of people, see these people walking today, and what it brings to every small shop, let pull in at night, or go for a bit of food, maybe have a couple of drinks and a bit of a sing-song and a get-together. And I think back 20 years ago, walking wasn't in thing, but now every young person are walking and going on walks, climbing trails, and we see a lot of more greenways, and they're all being well used, and that's great, and it's a great initiative.
And obviously it's coming through County Cavan, so you'd be delighted with that.
Of course I would. Anything that brings more people into Cavan, it has to be welcome. We'll have the museum, we'll have the burn, we'll have a lot of attractions in Cavan, and excellent food at reasonable prices.
It's an absolutely fantastic new initiative from Downpatrick Head all the way to Croagh Patrick via Knock, which is Ireland's premier pilgrimage site. St. Patrick obviously is a huge significance in the area. The very first phone call that actually Jeremy made to Ireland to start this journey was to myself in Knock, and I thought of Sister Maureen straight away. I said there's no better person to drive this, so I put him in touch with Sister Maureen, and we're all here today. The rest is history.
Yeah. And the walk itself, it goes through Knock, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely. So we had the privilege of welcoming the first group of pilgrims last year that stayed in the hotel, and they continued on all the way over to Croagh Patrick, and obviously this year there's an extension to that all the way up to Downpatrick Head, which is absolutely fantastic.
The Croagh Patrick Heritage Trail from Ball as far as Ballintubber. So really they step onto it for a few miles and they step off again. But it's probably the most historical and interesting part of the whole walk, all the way from Downpatrick to Croagh Patrick.
And you've met some of the walkers already, haven't you?
That's right, yeah, they're a lovely bunch, a very eclectic bunch, I must say, people from all walks of life. Some are spiritual people and they're here for that reason. There are others who are really focused on the history of Ireland, they have some connection here. And there are still others interested in the environment, which is where I'd come in really, that's my interest. Yeah. So look forward to meeting them, going to walk with them on Saturday, enjoy the walk, and getting to know them all a bit better and pointing out one or two of the interesting things.
As a local development company, what we're hoping to do is to work with the local authorities right across the route to ensure that whatever funding and supports that are required by the committee, that we can offer them and we can try and progress this, because I think it's a huge initiative that's going to be transformative for the whole section, we'd say, or the whole region across Ireland. So I'm delighted to be heavily involved with the committee and to try and support and bring it on. So delighted to see the numbers here today. It's a credit to the committee, and it's onwards and upwards from here.
For us, it's going to highlight and promote some of our leading destinations in Mayo from a tourism point of view. For example, Knock International Shrine, Ballintubber Abbey, Croagh Patrick. These are all destinations we're looking to promote and to let people know at home and abroad all about them and when they can visit and that. It's also a really good opportunity from a networking point of view in terms of, I suppose, developing inter-county relationships with other local authorities, other tourism officers, in a way that we can work together to develop and promote this trail with Sister Maureen, with Mary B, with all Toker Valley that have been involved in the development of the project.
And now thou art smiling, thy branches below. On Erin's green valleys look down in thy love. On Erin's green valleys, on Erin's green valleys, on Erin's green valleys look down in thy love.
We know that Croagh Patrick is a magnet around Westport and Clew Bay, and this initiative, I think, will even draw more people in, and it's wonderful for everyone, and I hope it's a big success. Well, it's a variety, and someone mentioned there that in the last 20 years ago, if you mentioned walking, somebody said, "What's wrong with you? Get in your car and put on the sat-nav." People like to get out and see the environment, get out there on their hikes, their walks, and for some that will be a pilgrimage, for others it'll be exercise, for others it's the beauty of the landscape.
I think it's absolutely fantastic. You know, we were trying to plot our own route, but this route looks really wonderful as well. So between the two, I'm sure this one is a really good one, really interesting one, and it's just an inspiration. But I would say we have 99 words for rain, and we have 20 words for field, so I'm sure we can come up with an Irish word for road or path, maybe cosán or tocher would be wonderful.
Well, I decided when I met Sister Maureen, because of the tocher, that it was so important that they should have an icon of St. Patrick, with all the gold leaf and looking absolutely resplendent and beautiful, because after all it is his walk, and they are so involved with the spirituality of the land that icons are quite amazing, because you use earth pigments to actually produce an icon.
What brought you to Ireland here to do this walk?
Oh gosh, I think the mystery of the journey for me, and the mystery of what it brings up, and we're both having quite an experience of really surrendering, and that these things don't always look like what you think they'll look like, but they look like what you need them to be. So it's been amazing, yeah.
And is it what you expected?
I think it's better than everything I ever expected. Yeah, it's harder than I thought. I had kind of an idea that we were just going to walk, but there's so many other elements of walking on hard surface and navigating, navigating different climates, injuries, carrying heavy packs. So it's better than I expected, harder than I expected, and more beautiful than I think I ever could have expected.
And you come out from the States for this?
Yes, I did. From Cincinnati, Ohio, all the way over the ocean, and beautiful country. I'm enamored with it already.
How did you hear about it?
So through Jeremy, actually, a mutual friend introduced us, and I saw a pre-screening of his documentary, and it moved me to tears a few times in the hour and a half it aired. And then on the way out of the auditorium, I guess I pulled him aside and I said, "Hey, I know you're looking for 2026, but is there room for one more?" And he's like, we actually just had one person drop out, so I didn't know I was doing this until about 2 months ago. And I felt extremely drawn and called to the land and to the pilgrimage that we're about to embark on, and I'm honored to be a part of it.